All right, so Alex, you write, direct, edit. Writing and editing can be sort of a, by yourself, live in the woods if you want to kind of thing,
As I do.
personal journey. But when you're on set, writing, directing, producing, wearing so many hats, you've got to have a great team behind you and a
Yes.
team that you can trust. And above all, for you to be doing multiple roles, you have to have great communication skills. So, how do you have everyone on the same page um, to execute your vision?
Well, a lot of times for myself, the big thing for me is, like you said, I do a lot of things. Sometimes I refer to myself as like a Swiss Army knife of a man. But the thing is, if you know anything about Swiss Army knives, sometimes those scissors don't work that great. So you have to be able to say, I know how to do that thing. I do. But I know this guy over here, he's the knife. The big, he's that's not a knife, that's a knife. He's got a big knife. So I always like to make sure that I understand what my crew's doing before I really can talk to them about it. Because the thing is, if you don't have any idea about something, you do have to trust someone with it, but you might not be able to tell them what you want as a director at the end of the day. I've learned this over countless films, obviously, where you start with someone and you got a couple of cameras, you don't know anything about cinematography, and you're just like, yeah, just film the thing, make it look like the thing. Can you do the thing? And they're like, yeah, I could do the thing. Don't know what that means, but sure, man. And then it doesn't work. It doesn't come out how you liked. I mean, I've had stuff where I understand sound. I've been involved with music my entire life, basically. But directing someone to use a shotgun mic and properly holding the boom and all that stuff, that's not something that you're thinking about because you think, yeah, he knows what he's doing. So, I literally have a scene of a short film I never released that's because he was taping the lake because he was holding the pole like this. Instead of actually getting that mic right up in
Mm-hmm.
here to what I'm saying, get it out of my frame. So you got to understand how these things work first and foremost. The second, knowing to communicate, knowing to talk to your crew, and make sure that they understand what you're thinking, how to do things. I mean, sound has always been the toughest thing where it's like you got to tell someone, hey, you got to get closer. See if you can get closer because the sound's not good. And a lot of times I'm acting in my own film, so I'm trusting my DP. I'm trusting the sound guy to tell me everything's good. So you have to be able to pick up those visual cues to know that's not good. That's not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, definitely on the end of sound, that's something I deal with. And as far as cinematography, that's definitely a trust exercise, especially when you're in front of the camera, because you can't be watching everything back. I mean, if you have enough schedule, you can sit there and watch every tape. But a lot of times, especially in indie filmmaking, our schedules are tight. My film Nomad, I think we shot in 10 days total. Once it was all
Wow.
said and done, yeah, it was a really quick process. I mean, it was supposed to be just an experimental, no budget filmmaking process. But my DP, Mike Vernazza, is incredible because one, I knew already from prior experience to plan, know what shots I want, but also know that when you tell him this is what I'm thinking, you have to be open to him saying that's not going to work too well. Why don't we do it this way? And you find a happy medium. I think I found every time I make a movie, you find a happy medium between, well, this is what my DP was doing, what he was thinking, and this is what I was thinking. And somehow it smashed together. It's like, okay, well, that was his shot, this is my shot. And I learned that because, especially making like The Dead Man, I had a shot list planned and all that stuff, but I didn't really communicate with my DP beforehand. So I was giving it to him on the day, and very proud of the movie, but at the same time, a lot of stuff that was in my head didn't come out quite like I wanted because we didn't have that open workflow. So one of the things I've learned over time is having that communication, having that workflow. Make sure your plan is concisely like conveyed, but also being willing to say, "Hey, forget my plan. Let's toss it." Um, I think I learned that in one of the worst ways possible because, me and my director of photography on When Everything's Gone, William Kaufman, he's awesome. Hire him. Hire Mike. Hire Jamal. Hire Andrew. Everyone. They're all really freaking good.
Everyone should
But
hire each other. That's That's what it
Yeah,
is.
or if you got a couple $1 million lying around, hire us all so we don't lose money. It's a good idea.
It's a very good idea.
But we were getting ready for When Everything's Gone, and spoiler alert, I wasn't originally the director. And Nero was my co-director, Jeff Sword, who's also amazing. Hire him as well. We had another guy on board, and things didn't work out. But prior to that, we were going on a location scout in Maine because part of the film takes place at a cabin. And he's like, "Yeah, I got this great cabin. It's remote. It's gonna look awesome." And he was very right. It was remote, and it might have looked awesome, but there was like barely any electricity. There were flies everywhere. It was a nightmare. So we drove all the way up 9 hours, got there and said, "This isn't gonna work. Let's just head back." So we stopped and we got a lobster dinner up in Maine. Delicious. It was probably like $20 because Maine.
The highlight of the journey.
That was one of the highlights. But on the way back, Will had been sleeping on the ride up. Lucky guy. So he was awake, and we decided to go through the shots, and we went through every single shot, not even knowing how to direct the movie, and we talked it through. And I realized in that moment just how important it is to sit there and say, "Okay, here's what I'm thinking. This is why I wrote out for a shot list. But here's what you're thinking. How do we make that work? What can we do here?" And it really works out every time. I've sat down ever since then with my DPs. I make sure I sit down with them and talk about the shot list. We go through it and we really, really hammer out the vision. Because if you go into something and you really don't know how it's going to look, at least up here to begin with, and talk about that, you're really going to find yourself tripping all over the place trying to find things. And the more budget you have, the more you can focus in on that vision. The more you can say, "Oh, I want these lights to be, red and blue. I want to make sure it's like crazy." Versus you're filming somewhere and you have one light, or you're using the sun. But you have to have a plan for those things, and the more you talk it out with your DP or anyone on set, the better you'll be. So it's something I really want to make sure I do when I'm working with my crew. Is one, I understand the process, and I understand how to do things. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So like in post, like I do all my own editing. I don't hire anyone because I know that that's something I'm got a really strong suit doing. But if I had to get an editor to do something, I really know how to communicate what I want because I know how to do that. I get it. And that I think has to be true with everything. Everything you do. And you need to understand the pitfalls of doing it a different way. You have to understand when I didn't do it that way, when I didn't talk it through and didn't understand how to communicate, how did that movie come out? And there are so many movies that are dead somewhere out there on Vimeo that have never seen the light of day that contribute to that idea of like, yeah, that didn't work.
Right. So
that's no good.
So planning and just the experience of doing it and doing it yourself sometimes to know what goes along with each
it goes
job.
a long way. And then on the flip side of it with the acting, for me, especially as a director when I'm directing actors, most of my process for getting an actor to do it, I really think, comes before we even get in front of a camera. My casting process, finding the right person for the job, has always been my go-to. Because it's one of those other things I've learned where you say, "All right, I'll get my friend to do that part. It'll be fine. Just a little bit part. It'll be great."
He's got a mustache. It works. It's perfect.
Yeah, you get it. Hey, the one time I had a friend with a mustache, it did work. That was
Right.
truly fantastic.
Point taken.
But yeah, I've definitely had people where I brought them in, and it's just like, ooh, you just don't get how to do the scene, and that's when you really have to try and direct and be like, well, the motivation is, I don't like to get in my actor's way.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have to say like let's slow the pace down, let's do a little stretch out, things like that, I'll do it, and it does happen. You have to do that, but usually I like to be like they get the character before I even said in front of the camera. They know what they're doing, and then they can explore. Because I know from myself as an actor, I like to be able to figure things out for myself as a character. I like to know something that's going on. I know people have different processes. I know some people like to write down an entire backstory of their character, and they have journals and stuff. I like to just feel what that character is. The script, a lot of time, especially when I write a script, should tell you just enough to figure out that character. And a lot of times it comes down to what do they do for work and how does that affect them So when you're performing and when you're directing other performers, you got to be able to let people have their process as well. So I mean, I've worked with a lot of actors that they share in a simple process of like, yeah, I'm just going to go into a state of pretend as soon as you say action, but they get it. They don't have to ask many questions. And I've had other ones that really they need an entire like, tell me what's going on here. What's this? What is the idea behind this line? And yeah, I mean that also in turn will affect how I'm doing things on set with my DP or how I'm going to do stuff um, in that sense. Because the way a performer is going to perform, that really dictates what you can do with a camera or with sound. Because I've definitely had people that don't understand that a microphone, if it's right here, is going to peak if you yell, and they just go right for it, and the boom has no time to react. And it's like, well, we'll have to fix that later. Oh
So
boy, ADR.
yeah, so it's good to know who you're working with and to definitely talk things out beforehand, whether you're talking to an actor, sound person, just a warm body to fill in and hold a reflector to know what that reflector does.
Yes, yeah. I think the biggest thing that it goes into obviously films have budget, but I think it's an important thing for any filmmakers to understand is that the planning phase of your film, pre-production, especially on a no budget type feature, when it's like your pre-production might just be you getting your shot selection just right, having everything ready to go, and say, all right, I have 2 days to film this. How can I streamline that down? I know a lot of people love coverage. If you have more than one camera, coverage can be really great. For me, as a filmmaker, coverage, I don't necessarily need it. I've had things where we went for coverage on a set because everyone's like, no, we need the coverage. And then you're in the editing bay and it's like, I couldn't get the shots I wanted because we were trying to get the wide shot 17 times.
I find that when coverage is concerned, you're so focused on got to get this, we've got to get that, you've got to get that, that you're not very open to other creative processes that could come aboard. Like
Yes.
I like to, if I can, if I have the time, I like to storyboard.
Yes.
Even if everything absolutely changes, like 100%, nothing is the storyboard. At least I've gone through what I'm going for in my head. I've put it to paper. I can communicate that with others. And if things change up, things change up. If we have to switch locations, they don't have a window here, we have to change the light source, whatever. We know what the scene is about.
Yeah.
And that's
Things
the
always
important
change
thing.
up. You can't avoid it. Things are always going to change up. But having that plan in place and knowing how to throw it away and adjust is really important. I mean, I'm a big advocate of letting your camera roll, a longer take. That's a big thing with me with my actors. That's why getting the right actors is really important to me because having an actor that can really sit there and they know the material, front to back, they can just go do the lines. It lets you just roll. You don't need to say, all right, I need to cut this together. There's an instance filming when everything's gone, where one of the actors, there were a lot of monologues for this actor, so I understand, but memorization became an issue at certain times, so we had to go ahead and cut up scenes. But there was one moment where I wanted to do this shot as a two shot, and my DP and I, once again, communicating, knew we wanted to do it this way. Everyone was on the same page, and I knew in the second take, I'm like, that's the take. Which once again comes down to you know what you can do. If you're an editor, you understand, I know how I'm going to cut this. I want to use that take just like this. One take. Don't let it break. But we continued on to do a third and a fourth take and cut to close-ups and things like that because after that one take he got through, he had trouble getting it. So it moved to let's get some coverage. So yeah, you got to know your team's strengths and you got to also know what you need because especially in the filmmaking, you don't have the budget to sit there and be David Fincher. You can't sit there and say, I want 117 takes of this one close-up just because I don't like the way you close that door. Which, I don't know how that works. Film, I do, a lot of times, it's 2-3 takes. Because even though we have digital cameras, like, come on. I can't do that. I don't have the time. I don't have the budget. My actors are tired.
And you can
And
see
on
actors
that,
get tired. Like sometimes, if
oh
I
yeah,
want something a certain way, I'll find myself directing the actors a little more. I'm big on rhythm, So,
Yeah,
if this person walks over here and then this person says this or this action happens, I don't want like a lag. But I find if we don't work that out beforehand in a rehearsal, if I ask for 7 takes, yeah, the rhythm might be perfect, but you can see it, you can hear it, you can feel it with the
sure.
actors. They're just like,
And on my own projects, because maybe I have a huge ego. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm in basically everything I've done. Because when you start as an actor, the reason you start moving into directing and writing your own stuff is because no one else is casting you. So I've done things where that's basically why I did it. It's like I want to get this out there. This is about me wanting to act, trying to make things. This is my character. I wrote it for me. So you're doing it, but then it comes to the day when you actually now are in the director's chair, and yeah, you get through that first day of filming. It's like, yeah, I did everything the way I wanted to, but now I have to prep for tomorrow. So let me go ahead and stay up a little bit later. Like when we were doing When Everything's Gone, everyone was staying at my house or my parents' house because I'm an indie filmmaker. Come on, I can't afford this place. Um,
pictures on the wall.
well, I will have pictures on my wall, sir.
One time.
Um, but everyone was hanging out by the pool, doing their thing. And I was up working on the next day's shot list, learning my lines. I felt like a quarterback of a really good football team. Hopefully, a really good football team. I think so. You're the first one in the building and the last one out because you have to make sure everything's right for tomorrow. You have to make sure that you're going to be on top of your game as an actor. You're going to be on top of your game as a director, a producer, writer. You have to be able to do all of that. So when you're wearing many hats, yes, you have to be able to communicate to other people and get them to do their jobs. But if you can't do your job because you've decided I like hats, which I think I have a picture of me with actually many hats and coats on, so it's
Ooh,
fitting. Um,
be a good thumbnail.
hey, I have it. It's from on set, so it works. But if you can't do your job, if you can't do all those jobs right, at the end of the day, you probably shouldn't be in those positions. You shouldn't be doing it
All right,
because
take care of
if
you as
you don't
well.
get it, yeah, if you can't do what you need to do, then the film's going to fail. It's not going to work because you need to be able to trust all these people to do their jobs, but they're trusting you right back. So if you're telling someone I want a medium close up, you better know what a medium close up is. And I don't care if you have to convey it, like fine, extreme, that's fine. However you have to do it, but know what you're talking about, know how to communicate
Mm.
it, and then know how to do what you're gonna do. Because at the end of the day, especially when you're shooting something that's got a tight schedule, people are gonna get frustrated. They're gonna get tired, and you're gonna see that lag in performances if you don't know how to get things moving and get your actors to act.